When we are faced with challenges, it's an opportunity for us to just look a little bit within ourselves. It's a beautiful thing to experience hardship, because out of hardship, we learn lessons that can make us into bigger people.
Hello everyone, my name is Mariana. I'm the founder of Maribelle Beauty, and I'm here today with the lovely Ruth. Ruth is a life coach, a speaker, a writer at her own blog called Overcoming Life. And Ruth is just so inspirational, and she wants to use her voice as a platform to connect with people. Thank you so much, Ruth, for sitting and talking with me today. It's a pleasure getting to know you and getting to meet you. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, and thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to get into the depth of what we'll be talking about. And thanks for having me.
Just to start off with a little bit introduction, tell me about yourself, where you're from, where you are at with your life, and a little bit about your blog.
I'm from Botswana, down in southern Africa, and I live in Namibia with my beautiful family. And I look at myself today. I'm a coach, I'm a writer, and I'm so fulfilled in my life as a mom and a wife, and also helping women overcome abuse in many different unimaginable ways, helping women go from being victims to now walking in their lives as victors, as heroes, and owning their brilliance through discovering who they truly are. And it really wasn't always like that for me, because I will never forget the time when I was out late with my friends after school, just having a good time like children do. And when I arrived home late, and I met with rage, and I got asked the question, "Why are you late?" I held my breath at that moment as I was trying to gather the words to put together to explain why I'm late. Before I knew it, a slap across my face that landed me on the stone pavement. And it was that moment when I believed that I was hard to be loved, I was unworthy, and I didn't matter. It was time and time again, not only that time where I'm just a child doing what children do, but I met with adult pain in ways that children should never be touched. So we have a tendency that when we go through things in life, we see ourselves the way that we are treated, that if we are treated unworthy, then we see ourselves as if we are unworthy. I know many of us have experienced that, and I know exactly how it feels. But it wasn't until I fell pregnant with my first child. I had the opportunity to be a mom now, and I realized that, look, I'm still broken. I need some work to do in here and in here. And I was determined to make sure that my son didn't experience the things that I experienced. I was determined to give him a life that I didn't have. So I took full responsibility of my job as a mom, and I sought for help. That's all I did. I was reaching out to wise people for help, watching teachings and preachings, reading books, listening to podcasts, and really gaining all the knowledge that I could gain so that I could learn and grow. And in that, I was overcoming. Then I found myself becoming the woman that I am today. This is why I am destined to call women to step into their emotional abundance, to take lessons from their stories and live a life full of fulfillment. And this is what my blog is all about, the lessons from the challenges that we have faced from our past that we could be still holding on to peel off those layers that cover the core of who we are, just slowly unveil and unfold to find out who we truly are and live a life full of fulfillment that we really deserve.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for sharing that with us. You talked about how, as a child, you were faced with adult consequences. So why do you think that children are often treated as adults sometimes?
The adults that could be going through their own difficulties, let me say. They could be in a place where they haven't done work on themselves, they haven't healed, they haven't been shown the love that they desired when they were little. They lacked Therefore, they grew into adults that didn't know or didn't have the capacity to show us the love that we need as children. And it's very hard for children. We don't see that at all, especially when we grow. We don't understand, why was I treated this way? Why did they do these things to me? Why did they say these things to me? They didn't like me. There was something wrong with me. We start to turn it around on us when really it's them. It's how they see themselves that they treat us that way.
It's so easy to go through a bad experience and just blame yourself. This is bad luck. Everything bad in the world is happening to me. Like, why me? You know, feel like everything is attacking you. But I feel like it's so hard to kind of step out of that and understand that people are going through their own thing and sometimes they project it onto you. And as children, we don't understand that. I know, like for me, I didn't comprehend that when someone was going through their own stuff and taking it out on me, like, oh, that's just their own stuff. It has nothing to do with me, really. It's just people going through their own stuff and taking it out on another person. How did your journey begin from going through those hard times and starting to heal? It's first one thing to heal in itself, but then having to speak on it. What made you want to start your blog and start speaking about it?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Meeting with people that went through what I went through, because I know what the pain is like. I know that challenge with the thoughts, the constant thoughts, and beating ourselves up about who we are from these experiences. Maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe they don't love me because of one, two, or three. We all have these reasons that are playing in our minds. And the feelings, the emotions behind that are so heavy, especially if we've grown up in that setting. It's like we were taught, if we come from a background of child abuse, whether it's physically or emotionally, when we are not allowed to speak or express our emotions, we get hit, we get talked down to if we cry or try to express our emotions. So when we grow up, we suppress that. We suppress it because we know that if I express my emotions, then that's danger. Then I would be rejected, and that's even more painful. So I'd rather just suppress it. And this is how I grew up as a young teenager. And for me to learn from all those experiences and be to where I am right now, there was a time in my life when I met a lady who was going through abuse. And I knew exactly that feeling. I connected with her at that level, but it was difficult for me. I was actually very scared to pull her out of that because I felt like maybe I don't know enough to help someone through their problem. We're different people, but that's not the truth. We've been through the same thing. And whatever lessons that I've learned, she can use in her life to also overcome the burden of abuse as well. So that was when I realized I have to do something about this. It was like a calling deep within my soul. I was working as a beautician at the time, and a lot of people have said, "Look, Ruth, you're so good at being a beauty therapist. You see, I do my nails and stuff like that." And I was doing my friend's nails, and I was so stuck on that. But I had this other calling through meeting even clients who was opening up to me about their challenges. And I would always feel like I can be there for them and help them, for them to be able to be comfortable, to open up to me about personal things was something that really called me to stepping into this. And ever since I took that leap of faith, regardless of the fear I had with my knees knocking and my teeth chattering, I did it anyway. And it's been the most rewarding thing, not only to reach out to these women, but also to watch them grow and learn and just become the best version of themselves and enjoy their lives.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking that leap of faith. I know it's so scary, but I only met you like a week ago, and I've already looked at your blog and your articles, and I can honestly say that it helps me so much. And it's something I found myself going back to as a reminder, like how to forgive the people who hurt you and how to connect with your inner child, things like that. You can tell it really comes from a place of experience and your own emotion and just from the good of your heart wanting to help. And I think I understand what you mean by when you say there's like a calling that where you want to help those who have experienced the same things that you have. Because I don't know, it's just like this whole reason why I'm doing Maribelle Beauty in the first place. I don't know, there's a greater purpose in life. There's a much bigger reason as to why we're all here. And, you know, some of us are going through the same things, and standing up together and speaking up and using your voice. I know it's easier said than done, but once you start that path, it truly is just a great form of healing your own mind and soul. And I think that first step, though, like you said, it is so scary, and just seeing how maybe your family would react. How did you start everything, regardless of all the fears and being scared of other opinions? How did you start everything, regardless of that?
I just started sharing my experiences. I realized that it's in my story and in showing, really telling my story. It's in telling my story that others can connect with me, especially those who have experienced a similar thing. And I believe that's how we can truly connect with each other at a deeper level, is when we are able to talk about our challenges and not shine all the time and talk from the mountaintop, but talk from a place of total vulnerability and showing what you experienced and what that really felt like for you. That's how I really started. I just started sharing my story, and in depth. I was very terrified because also where I come from, you do not talk about things like this. In my culture or tradition, I may say, you are not allowed to talk about your challenges at home or what you've been through or other family members or anything like that. When you step into the world, you're happy, you're good, you do your job, you be a mom and you be a wife and just continue to walk in that direction, but never expose secrets, is what they would say. And some family members actually reached out to me by saying, you know, put down the video, you're embarrassing us. Why are you talking about this? And it was painful. I didn't hesitate to take down the videos, I must say, because I'm in such a strong connection with myself and my purpose that I know that I know that I know. It's that intuitive feeling, and nobody will understand the path that we are taking, because the path was designed for us, not for them. So they won't understand it, and we can't make them understand it. So it's just for us to continuously walk in it, regardless of what people say. And this is the mindset that I had really focused on each and every single day. I was reminding myself while I spent time with myself, where I'm headed, why I'm headed in that direction. And just knowing that there could be somebody out there who was in a place where I was at a point of wanting to end their life makes me stop at nothing to reach out in every way that I can to show them that life is beautiful. Just take that step with me. I help you through this, and you will see.
And you know what's interesting? The family members that tell you, like, oh, take this down, this isn't right. The reason why they tell you that is because they know that something is wrong. They know that they're hiding something. So that's why they told you to take it down. Like, if you're
Yes.
right, like if you're doing good, then why would you say take it down? Then you have something
Exactly.
to hide, right?
You're
So,
so right.
and you know what? I actually talked to a survivor of domestic violence, and her name is Jennifer Lewis. And I did a podcast with her. I think it was episode 3. And she said that when she did her first podcast, she mentioned no names, but she did talk about family members like uncles and aunts, things like that. She said no names. And those people from the family, they messaged her and said, please take this down, but she just wanted to see who knew what was going on, and to her as a child. And all these people from her family messaging her like, take this down, like you can't speak about them like that. But that just showed her everyone in her family that knew what was happening to her as a child and did not do anything about it. So she got her answer, and I think that speaks volumes. You're more
Wow.
worried about the public or community knowing about what you did than saying sorry to your, at least saying sorry, that's the bare minimum to your
Yeah.
it's the bare minimum, but like to your own family. So, you know, I think humans, in a sense, we're kind of like that. We're always looking for that external validation. Like, we're always worried about what are they going to say? What are they going to say about our family? And it's like, at the end of the day, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about about anyone else's business. You know what? I don't know if I'm coming off
Exactly.
correctly. I don't know if I'm wording this right, but do inner healing. The public's opinion does not matter, or anyone else's opinion truly does not matter. If, things went down in the past in the family, fix that. That's what's important, healing and righting wrongs. That's what's important. Not, what, Jimmy from Two Doors Down is going to say. So,
Yeah. I love that you talk about the external validation. That's a very strong point. I learned from my coach, it's so important to learn how to validate ourselves first, even before the people closest to us, to validate, to learn that, like acknowledge ourselves, accept ourselves, show ourselves affection, things that we usually seek from outside of us. And the reason why it's not good to validate others first is because then we would be emotionally unstable, because these people might not have the capacity to give us that acknowledgement, celebrate us, or accept us, or show us the love that we are seeking for. It's either that, or they might not be there long enough to give us that. So we are dependent on them for showing us this very strong validation, whereas if we were to give it ourselves, it's everlasting. And it's even much more powerful for us to validate ourselves before they validate us. And I always say that once we validate ourselves first, then if other people want to come in and celebrate us, let that be a bonus.
yes.
Is what I say.
Yeah, they're just a bonus, but
Yeah.
perfectly said. That's honestly perfectly worded. And you hear that a lot, like, how can you love others if you don't love yourself? But I think it goes so much more further than that in terms of acceptance. How can you accept others if you don't accept yourself? Like, everything starts within you. And I think that often that's kind of our first instinct. Even as we're children, something bad happens, we go to mom or we go to dad to seek for that validation. As a mom, how do you think your experience from abuse and childhood, how do you think that impacts you as a mom?
To making me the person that I am today, I've learned so much, and from my experience, from the coming from the victimhood, that experience, to now being a victor, and also the experience of watching my parents growing up. Those are two different experiences that have taught me so much. And I must say, firstly, from my parents' side, I really love them truly, truly. And I would not change anything that ever happened in my past. They only knew what they knew. They were doing the best they can with what they had. And so what that has taught me is to change things with my parenting style. I observed, as children do, we all see, learn, and observe. However, whoever's looking after us, we copy them. And I became a lot like them when I was a teenager, a lot like them. And coming from that experience as a teen, living in so much pain and rebellion, I healed after some time. Like the story I told you about myself when I started learning all these things and healing from my experience, I just became a bigger person, and I learned so much about myself through going within. And one thing this whole life journey has taught me as a mom is that it's so important to put ourselves first. We tend to think that, we should put life above us, job, money, even marriage and kids as well. And what happens when we step into our lives, when we've just been putting that above us, we don't show up our full selves. Maybe we show up out of tiredness, or we're just exhausted when we're just going with with the way or the road that life is taking us with instead of us having control over our life. So I've learned how to spend so much time with myself through this healing experience and all this learning, that I learned to love myself. I built a relationship with myself. I started validating myself first. And in that, I was saying yes to me first. It doesn't mean putting myself first means saying no to others. It just means saying yes to myself first. And then I can start serving from my overflow. I can start showing up as a mom, my full self, having this forgiven myself, accepted myself for who I am. Then I, like you were saying when we were discussing self-acceptance, that how can you accept others if you don't accept yourself? So doing this for myself has made me show up the best I can be as a mom, as a wife, even in my job, serving others as well. And I'm not speaking from a point of perfection at all. No, I totally believe in imperfection. It's beautiful because we have this opportunity to continuously learn and grow with life. Life is always changing. Things happen. Marriage grows, kids grow, experiences, anything can happen. But once we just take all this in and learn from that, we just become better and better and bigger. And that's the whole purpose of life.
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly said, Ruth. I think you said something really important when talking about your parents. They only know what they know. So, in parenting, how do you think you can break that cycle of abuse? Because abuse is often generational, right? Like, as you said, they only know what they know. So, your parents are only doing what their parents did. I'm just wondering, how did you realize that abuse was happening and wait a minute, this isn't right? Because normal is so subjective. Everyone has their own version of normal. How do you kind of realize, wait, this isn't okay? I'm just wondering, how did you break that cycle?
Well, I started being exposed, like you say. I also had friends that were doing really well in school, better than I. And when I would hang out with them, I would see, they would talk about their lives and their parents, and I really had nothing good to say at the time. I was also operating from a place of just anger. I had a lot of anger toward them, and I resented them at the time. So being exposed to different families, and also on television, I used to watch comedy shows like kiddies comedy shows where they have the family together sitting at the table, laughing together, connecting, hugging, and telling each other they love them, and all these things that I always strongly desired, but I never knew that it was available until I got exposed to it. And I just started to be curious about that. And then I started to desire that one day I'm going to have a family and we're going to sit at the table. That for me was a big thing. We're going to have dinner at the table and talk about our days, because I loved everything that had to do with opening up and connection and image of family. That was the image that I had. And when I was pregnant with my first child, that's when I started to do some inner work. I remember I was living with my grandparents at the time. My partner had moved to Namibia. I was in Botswana and living with my grandparents, getting ready for being a mom, getting taught whatever I needed to know, doing shopping. And I had a lot of time alone. That was a killer. It's so painful to be alone because a lot of thoughts start to arise. Things from our baggage start to come to our minds, and we start to play this blame game and shame and regret and guilt. It was so horrible for me. I also had stopped working at the time, so I was really alone. My grandparents had their own things going on, and it was too much for me that I began to write these things down. I began to write what was going on in my mind. It was so amazing just to write it down. I had never spoken about any of this, but the fact that I was writing it down, it felt like I was letting it out, because I was writing down my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, what I've experienced, what I felt about this, and it made it digestible. My grandfather always taught me that if you are going through this depressive cycle where you're thinking continuously, write them down so that it's digestible. So it's not continuously playing like a movie in your head over and over and over again. Then it's like you're taking yourself through that trauma over again. And writing it down was very helpful for it to be digestive. And when I wrote it down, I started to look at it and I was seeing that there was so much negative about myself, things I'm telling myself about who I am that are so horrible. And I'm like, how am I going to be a mom when I've been writing these horrible things about myself? How am I going to be a mom when I don't even know how to love myself? Matter of fact, I don't even like the person that I am. So I just felt this pull that I have to do something about this. I have to learn something. So when I started doing research, I was honestly on Google. I was Googling how to overcome fear and anxiety, how to overcome, how to forgive, how to, all the things that I could possibly think of. I wish I could go back to the things that I was Googling just to see how I did it, because the information that came up for me was amazing and life-changing. I came across teachers through the Googling as well, and I watched them and I learned more. I did not programs, but let me say I listened to teachings and podcasts and even read books. I just got more exposure as soon as I started stepping into that hunger for being a better person, only just so I can be a better mom and be different from how I grew up.
You said you educated yourself so much, and I think that education as humans, that's one of the best tools we can do for ourselves. And now you're here educating other people. Did that happen slowly over time, or was it something that you woke up one day and you were like, I want to change, or I want to help other people?
It happened slowly. The journey to self-discovery, it takes time. And I would say it took me about 4 years just working on myself, because I was educating myself, right? I was trying things and some things didn't work, trying other things and seeing what really works for me to completely heal and I was really just working on myself and getting to know myself, getting to learn how to love myself, and meeting with also the challenge of being a mom and entering into a marriage, which all happened in a short period of time. There were more lessons being revealed, but I always say that when we are faced with challenges, it's an opportunity for us to just look a little bit within ourselves. It's a beautiful thing to experience hardship, because out of hardship, we learn lessons that can make us into bigger people. We learn lessons that can really take us to where our soul calls us to be. And it's always an amazing, beautiful place. And I feel like we tend to look at um, hardship as, like you're saying, we beat ourselves up and why is this happening to me? And we ask ourselves all these painful and draining and lowering, demotivating questions, when we could be switching it around a little bit and asking ourselves what could unfold from this experience. What is the lesson that is trying to be revealed to me that I can learn, and how can I use this lesson to go through this? I learned this from an amazing spiritual teacher. Actually, let me just call him a teacher because he's teaching a lot of things, Michael Beckwith. I don't know if you've heard of him. And he just says, in this, when we go through these kind of hardships, we should ask ourselves these powerful questions instead of asking ourselves questions that just make us feel low. Whatever we ask, the universe will respond to us, whether it's negative, whether it's positive. If we ask, why am I going through this? You're going to get the answer. Well, because you went through this and this and this. If you ask what's trying to unfold, you will get the answer. The answer is always available to us, whoever we are, wherever we are, and whatever we've been through, really. So that is just the beauty about embracing the hardship.
Mm-hmm. I always think about like this saying I read: if you always look for a red car, you're always gonna find a red car. So if you always, yeah, if you always look for the problems, like asking those demotivating questions, you're always gonna find something wrong. It's just asking the right questions instead of those, demotivating things. Yeah, our brain, I think, when we ask, like, why is this happening to me? It's going to respond with a negative answer. It's always looking for answers. So I think
Yeah,
asking.
that's very true. Yeah, you're so right on that. In these challenges that I had as I was doing this self-growth, I was just learning more and more how to connect with myself and look within myself. And as I was just trying to figure out what is unfolding, that's when this calling was revealed to me, or when I just discovered that. And spending a lot of time with ourselves and getting to know ourselves and connecting with just who we are, we get to have an ear for our intuition, that inner feeling that pulls you, even though the world says this, or your mind even can say, no, this is too scary. What are you doing? But the soul is always calling us in a whole new way. And I was just at a point where I was open to possibility, because I saw and experienced how my life changed and how I differed from the generational chain. And I was like, if I can do this, what more can I do? What more can I do? So I was just going in that calling path that I felt pulled toward. And that brought me to here.
Yeah, I would love to talk about your blog a little bit and shout out your Instagram, your blog, and any of your socials. And yeah. So
Sure.
your blog is overcominglife.blog, and your
Yes.
Instagram is, wait.
Is Overcoming Life 20, because it started in the year 2020.
Okay, amazing. Crazy. Everything happened in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Oh god. But anyways, thank you so much, Ruth, for taking the time to talk with me today. I know your voice, your story, and your goals, it's going to impact the world, and it's already impacted me so much. So at the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your wise words, telling your story, and your voice. It was such a pleasure getting to know you and meeting you.
Thank you so much, Mariana, also for having me. And the work that you do is incredibly amazing. Continue doing what you do, and having people like me and others as well be here to use their voice, and being so warm and easy to connect with and open up to. Even I feel so comfortable just being in this podcast. I don't feel any kind of discomfort, and I feel so free. I was actually prepared, but I didn't even read anything in here, because you just allow me to be me, and that is a very special quality that you have, and I love you for that. Thank you so much for having me.